Hi, my name is Matt, and I'm here to help you learn how to play Runewars. I'm going to start with setup, and then I'm going to move on to an example of play. Me and Caitlin will be playing the first 3 or so seasons of a game, including many examples of movement, battle, and various order cards. I won't be covering every nuance of the game, that's what the rule book is for, but by watching this video you should have a pretty good idea of what you'll be doing. To begin setup, each player will take one card from the Fate deck and compare the number on the bottom of the card to the other players. Whoever has the highest number becomes first player. Next part of setup is to choose factions. Starting with the first player and going around the table, everyone chooses what faction they want to play. The next part of setup is to deal these setup quests. You will take the quest cards and separate out all quests that say setup quest on them from the rest of the quests. You will then shuffle them and deal 2 to each player. Once each player has received 2 setup quests, they reveal them and then take the map pieces that correspond with the setup quest cards they received. They then discard the setup quest cards. What we will do now is set up the board. Starting with the first player, in this case me, we will each place one of our map tiles in the center of the board. I'm just going to go ahead and throw this one out there. Now, it'll be Caitlin's turn to place a map tile, remembering the following rules. The instruction book explains this in a confusing way, but I'll try to make it a little simpler. When you place a new map tile, 2 of the regions in the old map tile must touch your new map tile, and 2 regions in the new map tile must touch the old map tile. Caitlin has now placed her first map tile. We will now go around the table until everybody has placed both of their map tiles. So now you can see here our completed map for a 2-player game of Runewars. The first player must now place the home realm setup marker for each player in the game. These must follow a few rules. 1, they must border the map in at least 3 sides where there are no colored borders, such as mountains or oceans. And secondly, they cannot be placed within 3 areas of one another. The 2 home realm setup markers have been placed onto the board. Now, once again, starting with the first player, each person will take 1 real dragon rune and 1 false dragon rune, flip them both over, and place them secretly onto the board. You only have a couple rules for where these can go. They cannot be in an area touching a home realm setup marker, and they cannot be placed in a location that already has a token. All 4 of the dragon rune tokens have been placed onto the board. Now, what we'll do is, starting with the person to the left of the first player in this 2-player game, that would be Caitlin, that person will replace one of the home realm setup markers with their own home realm. You can tell it's your home realm because it will have your faction symbol next to the resources, and there won't be any numbers on the tile. Both of our home realms have been placed on the map. There is Wykar the Undyings, and there is my Deccan Lords. The next part of setup is to place all the neutral units onto the board. All of the regular realms, other than the ones with cities, will have little symbols right here. That will show the quantity and type of neutral units added to the board. You can match those symbols with the symbols on these neutral unit sheets. Now the board's populated with neutral units. Now we'll be shuffling up the cities and placing them on every single one of these map tiles that has a picture of a city on it. In this case, 3. Now, we're using the Rise of the Free Cities variant, so these cities are going to be beefy. The next part of setup is to build the quest deck. What that means is you're going to take every quest card that has a number for a tile that's not on the board and take them out of the deck. What this will leave are a number of cards that show tiles that are on the map and some cards with blanks on them. Everything else is removed. Now each player will set their starting resources. What I mean by that is each player will take their pointer on the resource dial and point it to the red number. This is their starting resources. Now, starting with the first player and proceeding clockwise, each player will take one of their strongholds, and they'll take the undamaged side, as opposed to the damaged side, and place it into one of their 3 home realm areas. And then they will place our starting units in that area. How you calculate your starting units, and usually how you calculate everything in this game, is you'll look at where your dial is pointing and all the spaces below it. For each segment in that dial that has a picture of a unit, that is a unit that you can recruit for your starting units. All the pictures of the influence markers and the tactics cards, they don't matter. All that matters is pictures of units. So as you can see here, I recruit 2 footmen, 1 bowman, and 1 knight. The Y-card player will be doing the same. Now each player will draw heroes from the hero deck until they get one that matches their faction's alignment. First, me, as a good hero, will draw Vyra the Falconer. Then Caitlin, as an evil hero, will draw Battle Mage Jace. Then each player will go to the supply of heroes and find the figurine that matches their card. The next step of setup is to shuffle all these decks and make a bunch of piles out of them. As you can see, you can probably do this before now. Also, what you're going to do is you're going to take the titles and lay them out face up for everyone to see. Next step of setup is to take all your tokens out. Now, each player draws a starting tactics card and influence based on what's printed on their faction sheet. In the case of the Deccan Lords, I will get 2 tactics cards and 3 influence. Next, each player draws 2 quest cards and puts them in their hand. And finally, the last part of the setup is each player takes an objective card matching their current alignment, in my case, good, and puts that in front of them. Caitlin, one of the Y card, the Undying, will take an evil objective card. And there, my friends, is a setup for the full game. And now, we're ready to play a game of Runewars. Runewars takes place in the rune-bound universe, and each player is one of 4 factions vying for supremacy. The object of the game is to get 6 dragon runes and control them. Dragon runes can be gained in a variety of ways that I'll be explaining throughout the gameplay. The game will take place over a course of 7 years, with 4 seasons during each year. If, at the end of the 7th year, no player has achieved 6 dragon runes, then whoever has the most dragon runes wins the game. You might be looking at this and saying, holy nuts, that's a lot of stuff. How am I ever going to figure out how to play this? You might be surprised to learn that the steps of a turn are only 3. Resolve a season card, choose order cards, and resolve order cards. The first step of each season is to resolve a season card. There are 4 seasons in the game: spring, summer, fall, and winter. How you resolve them is simple. You draw the card, and then you'll notice that there's a primary ability written in text and a secondary ability formed by pictures. This card is called Early Thaw, and the primary ability is each player may immediately increase his food resource dial by 2. So, I'll go over to my resource dial, the one that has food, and increase it from 3 to 5. Then, after you resolve each season's primary ability, you go to their secondary ability. In this case, they're always made up by little pictorial icons. In the case of the spring, none of these have any effect the first year, so I'll be going over these when the second year starts. The next thing is each player will choose an order card. Now this is the real meat of the game. As you can see, every order card will have a number of different parts. First is the name, in which case recruit or conquer. Then you'll notice that every order card has a number at the bottom. These are also quite important. Each order card has 2 sections of text, one above the line and one below. Above the line happens every time you resolve this order card. Below will only happen if you gain what's called a supremacy bonus. The concept behind supremacy bonus is thus. Each year you'll be playing an order every season, but you don't retrieve your orders until spring comes around. That's what this picture is for. So that means that at the end of each year you'll have 4 cards down on the table. When you play an order card for a season, if it is currently the highest numbered order card that you have on the table, you will be able to get the supremacy bonus for that card as well. For example, if during spring in the first season, I play a mobilize order, it's the only order on the table, so it is the highest number. I will be getting the regular text, and also the supremacy bonus. Now, the next season, summer, let's say I play Rally Support. That's a number 6 order, which is now the highest numbered order on the table. So I get the regular text for that order, and also the supremacy bonus. Now, for summer, let's say I play Conquer. Now, the number for Conquer is less than the number I played last season, so that isn't the highest number on the table. So I will not be getting the supremacy bonus for the Conquer order. I will, however, still be able to use the regular text for the Conquer order. The only exception to this rule is number 8, which is the highest numbered order. It has no supremacy bonus because it doesn't need one. It always has supremacy. The select order card portion of each season is done in secret. Each player covertly chooses one of their 8 or 9, if you have the expansion, order cards and plays them down onto the table. Once every person has selected their order, all players simultaneously reveal it. Caitlin and I have both chosen our order for the turn, and as it so happens, we've both chosen Mobilize. Now, how you normally determine who executes their order first is whoever has played the lowest number order goes first. Now, if there's a tie on the number of orders, then you break it by whoever has the most influence gets to do their order first. Now, Dakan Lords start with 3 influence. The Wykar the Undying only starts with 2. Therefore, I will be able to execute my Mobilize order first. A Mobilize order is activate an area and move any of your units and heroes to it from up to 2 areas away. I will now show you how that's done. First thing you do when resolving a Mobilize order is to place an activation marker in any area. You probably want to put it in an area that you can actually reach, as in with the units 2 spaces away. In this case, I'll put it here with the dragon. And then I can move any number of units from up to 2 spaces away, as long as they're not in an area that's already been activated. That indicates that they're tired for this turn, or this year, and they will not move again. So I'll move all of my units from the starting area. Whenever you execute a Mobilize order, you can also move heroes there. Now notice they separate that. Also move heroes, because heroes are not units. They don't follow most of the same rules as units. But you can move them with a Mobilize order. Also note with a Mobilize order, and barring special abilities, you can never move units over these red borders, which represent mountains, or these blue borders, which represent water. A final thing to know about Mobilize orders is when you move units from up to 2 hexes away, they can only travel through friendly hexes or unoccupied hexes. Now, heroes can move through any sort of hex they want, but units can only move through empty or friendly hexes to their destination. What will happen next, now that I'm sharing a hex with a neutral unit, is I can, if I wish, attempt diplomacy. This requires me to discard a number of influence and then draw fate cards from the deck to see if I can talk the dragon into joining me, or at least get him to leave his lands. However, I'm not willing to spend the influence, so instead what's going to happen is a battle. I'll show you how that works. First thing you do is take the battle marker and place it in the area where there will be the battle. This is so you'll know where to return your units to, because the next thing you do is take all the units that are participating in the battle and take them off of the board and place them next to the unit sheet on your faction card. I have now placed my units next to their respective places on my faction sheet. And I've also placed the neutral unit next to his respective place on his faction sheet. Now also, if you wish, you can use any heroes you have in the area to bolster a single unit's abilities. What you do is place him next to any one group of units that you wish to have him help out. And when you're drawing fate cards for that unit during battle, you can draw an extra fate card for each hero that's there. Now, you'll still only be able to use a number of fate cards equal to the number of units you have, but they'll give you more choices. To resolve battle, you simply go one at a time, starting with initiative 1, and going on to 2, 3, 4, and 5. Once you're done with initiative 5, the battle is over, regardless of if there are troops from either side still standing. So, we'll start with initiative phase 1. I have no initiative phase 1 units, and neither does the neutral opponent. So we'll move on to initiative phase 2. I can only use one of my units that is initiative phase 2. Now, since I have a novice wizard from the expansion and a knight, I can only select to draw fate cards for one of them. I will select to draw for the knight. I have now drawn 2 fate cards for my knight, one for the knight and one for the hero supplementing him. But since I only have one unit there, I still may only choose one of these cards to resolve. Now, how you resolve a fate card in battle is you compare the quadrant of that circle to that matches the base of the unit you're using, and look at the results in that quadrant. Now, since I'm using a knight at this point, he has a rectangular base, and in this card, that would be blank. In this card, that would be a flag with a 2 in it, which means route 2 units. Clearly, the superior choice would be to select the route 2 units. Whenever a unit is routed, it means the opponent can choose one of their standing units and tip them over onto their side. What this indicates is that they will not be able to draw any fate cards when it comes to their round in battle. Also, they become easier to kill on future turns. So I could route 2 units. Since the opponent only has 1 unit, he's routed. This concludes Initiative Phase 2. Moving on to Initiative Phase 3, we see I have 2 footmen. So I'll be drawing 2 fate cards, 1 for each footman. Now, footmen have a triangle base, so I'll be using the triangle result. And here, both of them got special orbs. What an orb means is that you get to resolve their special ability in combat, their special ability being written on their unit. In this case, it's Valiant Strike, which means I get to deal 1 wound. If this does not defeat the unit, deal an additional wound. So, the dragon here has... The opponent can select who gets wounded. Now, in this result, they only have one choice because there's only one opponent. So the dragon will take 1 wound. However, he has 4 life. Since he's not defeated, the footmen say he gets an additional wound. Now the next footman will resolve his ability, which is, of course, the same ability. He gets to deal 1 wound, and then, since the dragon is still not defeated, deal an additional wound. This deals 4 wounds to the dragon, who has 4 hit points, which means the dragon is dead. Now that there are no more units to execute during this battle, the battle is over, and we resolve who won. It may seem obvious, but how you resolve who won is you tally each standing unit and count them as +1 strength. In this case, I have 4 standing units. The hero does not count. He is not a unit still. The enemy has 0 units standing, so they have 0 strength. 4 is greater than 0, therefore I am the victor of the battle, and I retain control of the hex. The units are then placed back in the contested hex, and the battle marker is removed. Now that I've resolved my mobilized order, I also get to get the supremacy bonus, because this is the highest numbered ordered card I have in play. The supremacy bonus says that I may resolve this card a second time as long as I don't start a second battle, which means I can activate a second area and move units from an area into that area. But I have moved all of my units into an activated area, so I couldn't actually move any units into a new area if I activated it. So I will choose not to resolve the second mobilized order. And has also activated her mobilized order, which also resulted in the execution of some of the local populace. Since all players have now resolved their orders for this season, we start a next season, which of course starts with the drawing of a season card, now a summer one. And the card is Broken Allegiances, which the primary effect is each player who controls neutral units must spend 2 influence or draw a fate card. Since Caitlin and I both decided to slaughter the neutral inhabitants of the hexes we moved to, instead of befriending them, this does not have any effect right now. The secondary effect of the season card and every summer season card shows pictures of heroes, which means quest phase. Every summer, heroes are going on a quest phase, which is an entirely separate sort of mini-game that goes into the game of Runewars. Caitlin and I will execute our quest phase this season, but I will hold off showing it until Season 2, just to keep your brain clear of that extra stuff, because there's already going to be enough to explain for the first season. The remainder of the season card has been resolved off screen, so now it's on to selecting orders. The select order phase, I have chosen recruit, and Caitlin has chosen recruit as well. Since once again our numbers are tied, then we resolve who goes first by who has more influence, and our influence totals are the same as before, so I will be resolving my order first again. What it says here, for recruit units based on one of your resource types. And I get the supremacy bonus, since this is now the highest card I have currently played. I get to recruit the units based on a second resource type. So I will be able to recruit units based on 2 resource types. Recruiting units based on a resource type is so easy, it's ridiculous. All you do is pick a resource, and then take the amount of units that are where the arrow is pointed and below, and put them on the board in one of your friendly strongholds. Super simple. In my case, I will pick the food dial and get 3 footmen, and I will also pick the ore dial and get 1 swordsman. My 3 footmen and my knight have all been recruited onto the board in the only location I have a stronghold, here in my home realm. Something to keep in mind is that each area on the board can only hold up to 8 units, except for during a battle. At the end of a battle, if there are more than 8 units there, there's going to be some retreating. Alright, we both resolved our order card. Next season, autumn. Let's see what happens. Looks like we've got revealing their true nature. Each hero not matching a player's alignment deserts him unless he spends 1 influence, or 2 influence if they're the opposite alignment. Since we both only have 1 hero that we were dealt at the start of the game, and they both match our faction alignment, this text does not do anything. So we'll move on to the autumn picture effects. What the first effect is showing is that we reshuffle the fate deck. One of the key mechanics in this game is that there are only 30 fate deck cards, and the deck only gets reshuffled every autumn. So before battles or attempting diplomacy, you can look in the discard pile and figure out whether the odds are in your favor. But since it is autumn, we'll be reshuffling the fate card deck. In addition, each player can either receive 2 influence or 1 tactics card. Alright, since we resolved the season card, it's back to selecting orders. And we both already selected our orders. I've selected Conquer. Caitlin has selected Conquer, that silly copycat. Once again, we have a tie for the number, in which case turn order goes to whoever has most influence. I chose to collect 2 influence from that autumn card, and she also chose to collect 2 influence, which means I still have more, which means I resolve mine first. Conquer is another movement card. Activate an area and move any of your units and heroes into it from up to 2 spaces away. Once again, I will take one of my activation tokens and place it in an area. In this case, I will place it in the area with this giant. And then I can move units from up to 2 spaces away, and heroes. Now, of course, I cannot move any of the units from this area because it's already been activated. I can, however, move the units I just recruited 2 areas to where the giant is. In addition, I can move the hero. Wait a minute, you say, but he's in a place with an activation marker. But remember, heroes are not units. Heroes can move out of areas with activation markers. Heroes don't give a crap about activation markers. In fact, they usually don't give a crap what the units are doing at all. So I'm going to go ahead and move the hero to that place as well. And I can attempt diplomacy. To show you how it's done, I'm going to go ahead and do it. I'm going to spend 3 influence in an attempt to court the mighty giants. So what I'll do is take those 3 influence, return them to the pool. Now I get to draw 1 fate card for each influence I've spent. In this case, 3. And I get to resolve 1 of them. You resolve them by looking at the icon that's pictured at the top of the card. Let's just flip this over. In this case, there's 2 bad icons and 1 neutral icon. If you recall, a bad icon means that it's going to lead to a fight, and the neutral icon means that the neutral unit will retreat. I will select the neutral icon, meaning I've talked the giant into abandoning his lands, because I'm that smooth. When this happens, the player to your left gets to take this neutral unit and retreat them according to retreating rules. We'll go over retreating rules later in a battle. The giant will now retreat into an adjacent uncontrolled area, which includes this here city. Despite what you may see in later portions of the video, whenever a unit retreats, it is routed. So this giant will be routed until next spring. Alright, anyway you cut it, I now control that area. And that area has one of these juicy dragon rune tokens on it. Since I have units in this area, also a hero, either one would be good enough, I get to look at what's on the other side of this token. Shh, don't tell Caitlin. I now will return it face down to the board with my secret knowledge of whether that is a real dragon rune or just a lousy fake. Now would be the time where I would resolve the supremacy bonus of my card, but as you can see, it's not the highest number I've played during this season, so I do not get to use the supremacy bonus this season.
Caitlin has also resolved her Conquer order, moving her newly acquired units from her stronghold to this empty area containing a dragon rune.
Time to bring this year to a close and resolve winter. Let's see what card it is. It is Power for the Pious. It is a Wizard's Council. We perform an influence bid. The lowest bidder chooses one area belonging to each opponent that does not contain a rune token. Then you place a dragon rune token in each chosen area. Time to explain what an influence bid is. Each player takes all of their influence and shows it to all other players so they know how many influence each player has. In my case, I have 2. Caitlin, it appears she has 4. We then take them and put them somewhere secret. We then each select a number of influence and put it in a closed fist above the table. Okay, we both have our chosen amount of influence in our closed fists. Now we reveal. We both have bid 0 influence. Interesting. Now, normally, the player who has the Wizards, the Primarch of the Wizards Council breaks all influence bid ties. Otherwise, it's whoever among the tied players has the most remaining influence. Unfortunately, I have 2 remaining influence, while Caitlin has 4. That makes me the lowest bidder. Dragon rune token means a token that has a dragon rune on the back. None of those fake dealy boppers count. And I have to put it in one of her regions that does not already have a token. In this case, it's going right there. We will now resolve the picture icons that will take place every winter. The first picture is food and skulls. That means that we have to feed our people. How this works is that temporarily, for this moment and this moment only, each area on the board has a maximum occupation limit of our food dial. In my case, that means that for every unit in excess of 5 in any region on the board, they die down until they only equal 5. Now, luckily, or strategically, the two areas that I have with units have 4 units apiece. Caitlin, who also has a food of 5, looks like she gets to feed all her guys perfectly as well, because both of her regions also only have 4 people. So no one dies due to hunger this winter. Oh, happy day. The second part is, which you might be able to tell by this picture, it shows water with an arrow over it. That means that it's winter. The lakes and the rivers are all frozen. That means for winter and winter only, you can travel over water as if it was just any old land border. We now both have secretly selected our orders. I have selected Acquire Power. Caitlin has selected Harvest. So, since Harvest has a number of 4 and Acquire Power has a number of 7, she will resolve her action first. Let's just take a look at Harvest. The ability of Harvest is that you get to reset your resource dials based on the areas you control. What this means is you count up all the resource on areas that you control, and you set your dials to those numbers. Yes, this means that when you harvest, your dials can move down. If you have lost areas since your last harvest, or you have added resources for some other reason, you could end up with less resources when you harvest. Harvesting, other than external abilities caused by seasons, is the only time you ever change resources. I will now resolve my Acquire Power order, starting with gaining influence as provided by my resources. This is accomplished in the same way as recruiting. You look at each of your resource dials, and you figure out how many pictures of influence are at the needle or below. In this case, I will get 1 influence from my food dial and 1 influence from my ore dial, giving me a total of 2 additional influence, making my influence total go up to 4. And also, since 7 is the highest order I've played this year, I get the Supremacy bonus. What this is I get to choose a title card, claim it by spending more influence that is on the title card. Then you remove all the influence and place your spare influence on it. This can be a title card from anywhere, including title cards already claimed by other players. The only restriction is you must spend more influence as is on the title card. Always, title cards that are unclaimed in the center of the board will have 0 influence. So I will choose to claim the Guildmaster of Merchants. This allows me to, whenever resolving a harvest order, to get 2 extra resources of a single type, and it allows me to ignore resource losses caused by primary ability of season cards. I will place this in my area and place any number of influence on it greater than the influence that was already there. I will choose 2 influence and place it on top of this title card. Now, if anyone wants to use the supremacy bonus of any future acquire power orders, they will have to spend at least 3 influence to usurp my title from me. Thus concludes 1 full year in a game of Runewars. This will repeat itself 6 more times for a total of 7 years, as long as one person has not gotten sufficient dragon runes to claim victory before then. We will now start year 2 of Runewars, which is started the same way every year, by drawing up a spring season card. We have Taxing the Surplus. Each player may draw 1 tactics card for each area he controls that contains a city. Neither me nor Caitlin have taken over any areas that contain a city yet, so this will resolve negatively. Then we'll move on to performing the secondary effects of the season card, starting with retrieve all activation markers from the board. All players will take all activation markers from the board and return them to their play area. Then we see each player returns all used order cards into their hand. So each player will retrieve all their order cards and add them to their stack of order cards for play next year. Finally, the last icon represents unrouting all units, or standing all routed units. In this case, the giant was routed earlier by my forceful retreat. He will now stand, along with all other units that would happen to be routed on the board. This is how you resolve a spring season card. Caitlin and I have both selected our orders for this round. I have selected Fortify, which is number 8, and she has selected Mobilize, which is 2. Therefore, she will go first. But this will, since she gets a supremacy bonus, this will allow her to activate an area, move units into it, and then resolve it again a second time. She has already done this. She activated the city and moved the units from this area into it, taking over the city. She also activated this area and moved her units there to fight this Hellhound. Short story shorter, the Hellhound got shanked. I am now able to resolve my Fortify order. I can perform any of the following once each. I can lose 1 ore and 1 wood to build a stronghold in an area I control that doesn't contain a city. How this goes is I will take my wood dial and move it from 2 to 1, and my ore dial and move it from 2 to 1. And then I will take an undamaged stronghold and place it in an area I control. Then I could repair a stronghold that I have, but none of my strongholds are damaged. I then choose 2 friendly areas and may freely move rune tokens between them. I will choose this area of my home realm and this area that I have just fortified, and I will freely move this rune token back here. It's time to move on to summer, starting with resolving the summer season card. Here we have Reroute Supply Caravan, which is a Wizard's Council. All players will perform an influence bid, and all players except the highest bidder will lose 1 of each resource type. I have 2 influence to bid, whereas Caitlin has 4. We will now secretly bid. The result of the bid was that I bid 1 influence, and Caitlin had bid 2. All influence bid by all players is returned to the supply, and then we resolve the card. Since I am not the highest bidder, I must lose 1 of each resource type, taking my food dial down to 4, my wood dial down to 0, and my ore dial down to 0. We will now resolve the secondary effect of the summer card, which is Hero's Quest Phase. Each hero controlled by players can have 1 of 3 options. They can either heal, which means remove all damage from that hero, or they can train, which means increasing their attributes by a total of +2, or they can move, and movement on the board can result in questing or dueling. Caitlin, since she had the lowest number order card the previous season, will resolve her quest phase first. She has 1 hero, and she has decided to train him. Both of her points she's putting toward agility. So this marker will be put next to the hero's card and be a permanent increase in that hero's agility. Next, it is my hero's turn, and I have selected to move. So, when you move a hero during the quest phase, they can move a total of 2 areas. This movement does not share the same restrictions as unit movement. They can move through any areas, including ones occupied by neutral units, or even ones occupied by the opponents. They do not interact with them in any way. So, I will take my hero and move him 2 areas down here to space 3C. I will now attempt a quest. Here is one of my quest cards, which includes the name of the quest, in this case Hill of Ash, a description of what the quest is in italics, and then how to go about attempting the quest. Many quests involve testing an attribute, in this case testing strength. Down here shows the area where the quest must be completed. Your hero must be in this area to even attempt the quest. How you test an attribute is as follows. To test an attribute, in this case strength, you find what your hero's aptitude in that attribute is. Here we have Vyra the Falconer, who has his natural 3, plus the 2 that I trained him for the previous summer. That gives my strength of 5, which means I can draw 5 fate cards. You draw as many fate cards as the hero's attribute. You then apply one of the results to your quest card to find the appropriate outcome. Here I have drawn 5 fate cards. The only important part is the icon at the top of the fate cards. Here I have 3 bad results, which are the red things, 1 neutral result, which is this gray thing, and then 1 good result, which is the yellow thing. I can choose any one of these cards and use that to resolve the quest. Either the neutral or the good result will come out with the good outcome, so I will choose the good result. That ends up strong like ox. Receive a reward. Whenever a hero is instructed to receive a reward, they will draw a reward card from the reward deck. These cards are secret and known only to you. In fact, you're not even allowed to tell other players even if you wanted to. You will take the reward card, and I'll show you what it looks like. At the top is the name of the card, and at the bottom is a type, in this case weapon. And then weapons and armor are used to help heroes in duels. As it shows here, it replaces the hero's special ability with this new special ability, Rage Blade. Whenever a hero will draw a special ability in a duel, he can choose between the special ability of one of the weapons he is carrying or his own special ability. Now I will place this reward card face down next to the hero who claimed it. The final outcome of completing a quest is you discard the quest card that you completed and you replace it with a newly drawn quest card from the quest deck, adding it to your quest cards you already have. Just note that you have a maximum of 3 quest cards you can keep. And that's how you resolve the quest phase of your summer season cards. Kayla and I have selected our orders. I have selected Harvest. She has selected Recruit. Recruit is a 5, Harvest is a 4, so I'll resolve mine first. I will reset my resource dials based on the areas you control. Now, I only have the resources granted by my home realm, plus 2 resources, for 2 areas that give me 2 ore each. In addition, I control the title of Guildmaster of Merchants, which allows me to gain 2 extra resources of a single type when resolving a harvest order. So, what I will do is add those 2 to my food, which gives me a total of 5. My wood will go back to its starting value, and then ore will go up to my starting value plus the 4 I have from areas. Now normally this would be the end of my turn, but it's time to use a tactics card. Here we are. Brilliant maneuver. It says play during your turn, and the effect is use the supremacy bonus of your active order card even if it is not your highest numbered card, which means I'm going to get the supremacy bonus of my harvest order even though I wouldn't normally have gotten it. Brilliant. The supremacy bonus for harvest is gain any bonuses provided by your developments. Well, I don't have any developments, and you must be like, what the hell is development? Well, as you can see, the next part of it is you may lose 1 wood to build a development at a friendly stronghold. Over here, you'll see the various development tokens you can have. For the faction that I am, these include getting an extra 2 influence every time you harvest, making your stronghold an extra 2 in defense, or getting an extra resource whenever you use the harvest order. Development cards added in the Banners of War expansion, can be built anytime you could normally build a development. As you can see, development cards have effects that last the whole game and costs and resources on the left-hand side. I will peruse my developments, and then I will go ahead and build this one, National Draft. As you can see from the left, that'll cost me 2 food. So I'll go to my food dial and decrease it 2 spots, back down to 3. Now I'll keep this card face up with me for the rest of the game, and as you can see, whenever resolving the secondary ability of a Spring Season card, I can recruit 1 footman at each one of my strongholds. Handy. Now Caitlin will resolve her recruit order, which includes, since she has a supremacy bonus, will include recruiting for 2 resource dials. We're now ready for Autumn of Year 2. Let's check it out. It is Caladra's Trove. Each hero matching its owner's alignment immediately receives a single reward card. Well, since both me and Caitlin both only have 1 heroes, the ones we received at the beginning of the game that match our alignments, they're each going to receive 1 ward card for free. Thanks, Caladra. On to the secondary effects of the Autumn card, which include reshuffling the Fate deck, and each player choosing to draw either 1 Tactics card or 2 Influence. Caitlin and I have selected our orders for the season. I have selected Mobilize, and Caitlin has selected Strategize. Mobilize is a 2, and Strategize is 1, so she will be resolving her order first. As you can see, Strategize allows you to move any of your units and heroes to adjacent friendly or empty areas. Do not activate the areas. Once again, friendly or empty areas means areas that either you control or have no units in them. No moving into neutral occupied areas. The advantage of using a Strategize order is that you do not have to activate the areas you're moving to, which frees up further movement later in the turn. I won't be getting to use the Supremacy bonus of the Mobilize order, so I'm only going to be able to pick 1 area to activate and move to. In this case, I'm going to pick this city. And then, as you remember, I can move units from up to 2 spaces away. This hex is 2 spaces away from that city. Why? Because of this mountainous border in between. You cannot move units over that mountain. So I will take a knight from here and move him 2 spaces into the city. I will also be taking a knight from here as well. Do I think 2 knights are enough to beat a giant down? I feel confident. I will now draw 2 fate cards for the knights. As you can see here, I've gotten 2 routes and 1 damage. As I've said in the order before, you resolve them in the certain order. All special abilities, all routes, and then all damage. So, I have a route flag with 2, which means I get to route up to 2 opposing units. Or, to be more accurate, the opponent can choose 2 of their units to be routed. In this case, they don't have much choice. They have 1 giant. He is now routed and will not be participating in the battle. Poor giant. Also, I get 1 damage. Normally, I'd apply him the damage, but this is the end of the battle because the giant won't take a turn and I have no further units, and everyone heals at the end of every battle, so I'm not even going to bother giving him his damage. Now, we'll calculate strength. My strength is 2 because I have 2 standing units. His strength, well, you think it's 0, right? They have no standing units. Unfortunately, he has 1 strength, because even routed hexagon-based units count their strength in battle. Of course, 2 is still bigger than 1, which means I've won, and the giant has to retreat to an adjacent neutral or empty area. The end of the second year approaches, and we'll start that by resolving the Winter Season card. As you can see, it is the Favor of the Council, which is another Wizards Council event. We will perform an influence bid. The highest bidder will choose one of his heroes, and then can move that hero to any area, or have the hero receive a reward card. Influence bids will now be resolved in the same exact way they have been resolved every other time. With that resolved, we'll once again worry about feeding our troops. In this case, my troop limit in any area is 3, because I only have 3 food. Luckily, with my final mobilize order, none of my areas have more than 3 units, whereas Caitlin has a hefty 5 food for her armies, so all of her guys remain fed as well. We're back to selecting our order cards. This season, I have selected Recruit, whereas Caitlin has selected Fortify. Recruit is 5, so I'll be going first. Now, in this case, I won't be getting the Supremacy bonus, because it's not the highest number, so I can only pick 1 resource type to recruit my units with. Now, as you can see here, it's quite obvious. I'm going to select Ore. That will get me 2 knights and either a siege engine Or, as you can see from this picture here, I can recruit a rock in place of the siege engine, which I will be doing. When you recruit units, you can recruit them to any strongholds that you have on the board. Since I have a choice between 2 strongholds, I could have recruited my units in any combination between these 2 strongholds. Now, as you can see, I have more than 3 units in this hex. But that's okay, because the starvation effect of the winter season card only applies instantaneously. Now that I've already fed my existing troops, I can go ahead and hire new ones without having food for them. They don't mind. Caitlin will now resolve her Fortify card in the same manner that I resolved mine. On to year 3, and like every other season, that starts with resolving a season card. Taxing the surplus. Each player may draw 1 tactics card for each area he controls that contains a city. Unlike last year, when we also taxed the surplus, this year, both Caitlin and I control an area that contains a city. So we will each be drawing 1 tactics card apiece. Here's one for her, and one for me. You cannot use tactics cards in the same season in which you drew them. So normally when I draw tactics cards, I put them off to the side and draw them at the beginning of next season. We've resolved all of the secondary effects of the spring season card, including standing that routed giant upright. He's back in action. In addition, if you recall my upgrade card, since we're done resolving the secondary ability of a spring season card, I recruited 1 footman in each of my strongholds. Good for me. Now, I've selected the order Strategize, and Caitlin has selected Mobilize. Hers is 2, mine is 1, so I'll conduct mine first. Time for Caitlin to mobilize, and since she gets the supremacy bonus, she can do it twice. And we're back to summer, year 3. And we draw Fires of Heaven, which is a wizard's council. We will perform an influence bid, and the highest bidder must choose a city. The chosen city is destroyed. The outcome of that influence bid ended in the raising of Caitlin's city, which was worth a dragon rune. Caitlin and I will now both resolve the quest phase of the summer season card. I have already resolved mine, and it ended up with my hero taking 2 damage, but getting a reward card in the process. We resolved Caitlin's quest phase, and it ended up with a result quite similar to mine, attempting a quest, sort of passing, and getting a reward card. And now we're on to the orders part of summer. I have chosen Conquer. Caitlin? Recruit. Alright, Recruit is a 5, and Conquer is a 3, which means I'll get to do mine first. I moved quite a bit of units into the battle. It's time for a big old barn burner. We've placed the battle marker in the area and placed all of our units onto their appropriate sheets. And we're going to start with Initiative 1. I have no Initiative 1 units. Caitlin, however, has a single skeleton archer, so she gets 1 fate card.
Nothing.
It happens to be blank. So sad, as a skeleton archer has a triangle base. Next is Initiative Phase 2. Caitlin has 1 Initiative Phase 2 unit, her Necromancer, whereas I have 4 of my Knights, plus Vyra the Falconer, to help them. So that means she will draw 1 fate card for her Necromancer, and I will draw 5 fate cards for my Knights, and choose 4 of them to resolve. Alright, as with any battle, we'll go attacker to defender, resolving specials, then routes, then damage. I have 1 special icon, so that means that one of my knights gets to do his special, which is deal 1 route, and then draw 1 tactics card. So Caitlin, you can choose any one of your units to be routed, which means lie them on their side. Good choice, since he's already gone in the battle, it's not that big of a deal to have him be routed. And I get to draw 1 tactics card, which, of course, I cannot play this season. So I'll just put over here. Then, as we see, Caitlin's unit is a circle, and it has a route. So we'll be resolving that after my routes, because I also dealt 1. So she must choose to route 1 unit, and then I must also choose to route 1 unit. And I will route one of my knights since they've already drawn their cards for this turn. And then finally, we'll resolve the damage. I get 2 damage, which Caitlin can apply to any of her units, starting with 1 damage at a time. And you must damage standing units first.
Oh, damage these two.
Alright, each of them have 1 hit point?
Yeah, so...
So the 2 damage will kill both the reanimates. Thus ending initiative phase 2. On to 3. Caitlin has no more units in the battle, so now it'll just be me drawing fate cards and resolving them. Next are my 3 footmen. And I have drawn 3 cards for them. Footmen have a triangle base, as you can see, 2 blanks and 1 damage. So Caitlin must apply 1 damage to one of her units. Since she has no standing units, she can choose a routed unit to receive the damage. Caitlin chose to have her bowman take the hit. So all that's left is a routed necromancer. But I still have my one last card, my one last unit, I should say, my rock, who has a hexagon base. And we resolve that, and it's a big beefy 2 damage, which is plenty more than enough to kill the final necromancer. He did. So now, since the battle is over, we return all units to the board, and then tally strength. I have 7 standing units, so that gives me 7 strength. Caitlin, who would normally have 5 strength due to her stronghold, only has 2 due to my supremacy bonus of Conquer, which decreases the strength of an opponent's stronghold by 3. So the strength is 7 to 2, meaning I win the battle. Not only do I get whatever this rune token is, lucky me, I also get to take her stronghold over. I take her stronghold off the board, and I replace it with a damaged stronghold of my own. It was damaged during the siege. In addition, I'll be playing a tactics card. This one's called Pillage. And I play immediately after I won the battle, and I gain resources as provided by the area. If the battle is against an opponent, he also loses resources provided by the area. The area, as you can see, provides 2 wood resources. So I will increase my wood dial by 2, and Caitlin will decrease hers by 2. Now on to Caitlin's recruit order. Alright, it's time to resolve the autumn season card, which appears to be frozen crops. Each player whose food resource dial is at 5 or higher loses 1 food. My resource dial is at 3, so I lose none. Caitlin?
Mine was at 5.
Hers was at 5, so she loses 1. Now, even if my dial was 5 or higher, as you can see, I have the Guildmaster of Merchants, which says, ignore the resource loss caused by the primary ability of any season card. So I wouldn't have had to lose 1 food anyway. And time for the secondary, which is shuffle the fate deck back, and each player can choose either 2 influence or 1 tactics card. We have both selected our orders for the next season. I have chosen Rally Support, and Caitlin has chosen Conquer. Caitlin has already moved her units due to the Conquer ability, so it's time for me to rally some support. For each city I control, I gain neutral unit tactics card, influence, or quest cards. What that means is every city has those 4 things pictured. On the left is the neutral units, on the next to it are the tactics cards, then the influence, and then the quest cards. So I get to pick one of those 4 benefits of the city and get them. That means I can either recruit 3 circle neutral units, draw 3 tactics cards, 0 influence in this case, or draw 2 quest cards and discard down to 3. In this case, I'm going to go ahead and get 3 tactics cards. Bam. But of course, once again, I cannot use them this season, so I'll be putting them over there. Also, the supremacy bonus is I can spend up to 3 influence to draw the same number of hero cards, and then choose one to keep and shuffle the rest back into my deck. I will be spending 1 influence, which means I get to basically draw the top hero card off of the deck and add them to my forces. Each player can have up to 3 heroes in front of them. So it looks like I drew a neutral hero by the name of One Fist. I will be searching for his miniature and putting him in any stronghold I control. In addition, during my turn, Vyra the Falconer will be using one of his reward cards. Since he is now in a conquered stronghold, I can use this Timoran Shard, which says if this hero is in one of my strongholds during my turn, I can discard this card to receive 1 dragon rune. So this reward card will be discarded, and I will take 1 dragon rune token. And when you receive a dragon rune, you receive a real dragon rune and a fake dragon rune. This happens every time you receive one dragon rune. What you then do is put them face down and put the real and the fake in any locations controlled by you. Before you do this, you can also remove any number of fake dragon runes from your areas in an effort to make room for your new dragon rune tokens. In this case, I will be putting one of them here and one of them here. Lights of the North. In this season, any circle units that resolve a fate card during battle with a damage result may instead treat it as a special ability result. Looks like magic is in the air. Secondary ability of the season card will now be resolved. This means that all units in excess of each player's food supply in any given area will die. My food supply is 3, so all units in every area I own in excess of 3 will be sacrificed. This recently conquered area includes 8 units, so I'll have to choose to sacrifice all of them except for 3. I can choose to include routed units in this number. Alright, I had forgotten to place Vyra the Falconer back in that region after battle, but he still is there. Now notice, even though I only have 3 food, I have 3 units and Vyra the Falconer. That is because he is not a unit. Apparently, that means he doesn't need to eat. Good for him. Okay then, well, there's the first 3 years of a game of Runewars played with the Banners of War expansion and Rise of the Free Cities modules. Hopefully, you've gotten some kind of idea of how the game plays. I showed you a few battles, some quests, almost all of the order cards, and even people dying of starvation, which is always fun. So, hopefully this video helped you out, and it lets you enjoy the game of Runewars more. And if I made a mistake in my video, which I made at least one, go ahead and tell me, and maybe I'll get around to fixing it, but probably not. I'll probably just put a caption on the video saying, "This guy's an idiot." Alright, thanks for watching.